What up, everybody, and welcome to the Monday Night Football NFL Showdown pre-lock show. I'm your host, HeadChopper, taking you for about 30 minutes or so, up until a little bit before kickoff, walking you through this game, just hamming it up. Today, you get Beer back in the booth, man. I missed Beer the past few times, but he's back here now, looking at this Monday night game. Beer, how did the Week 17 treat you? I never even got a chance to ask you about your season long stuff. How the best balls treat your season long leagues? How's all that going? How'd all that go for you, man?
So got a few championship sweats here tonight, so we'll see. Some looking good, some I need the miracle, some are pretty dead even. So I'm in enough leagues where I got a bunch of different games going on. Best ball, not so much. Advanced a bunch of teams, moved to the second round. I think I had about 8 or 9 on DraftKings. All got knocked out. So you see all the complaining about pods, and you start looking at your teams, and got some high scoring teams in there. Unfortunately, it's just the way the game goes. So good news there. Playoff best ball is looking like some big time contests out there. So always a lot of strategy to that. So all in all, a good year. This week in DFS, solid. I mean, didn't end up getting there. Was on Tampa Bay a lot. But just, you got a dud or two in the lineup, and so be it. So all in all, solid week. Season longs were good. Best balls, we'll try again in the playoffs and on the next year. How about you? I know, do you still have that one season long that's been going for
the only redraft season long league I do is this hometown league. That, man, golly, I gotta say, got to be 20 plus years now. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. 25 years, maybe. Like it's just guys I grew up with in Galveston. We just started doing it when this stuff first got popular, and we've never stopped. And so that's the only one I do redraft. That's the only one I care about. Well, that's the only one I care about because it's the only one I do. Man, these guys caught up to me now. I used to dominate that thing. I think they're reading some articles and stuff now because every year they're getting me now. This year was brutal draft for me, man, because they were sharp as a tack this year. I for sure thought I was going to get one of those running backs fall to me on the way back down. When I took CD at 3, and I thought, okay, second round, I'm going to get my back. I'm going to get Saquon, Derek. There's no way these guys aren't sharp enough, man. They're not like that. Like these guys used to draft quarterbacks in the first round, right, like that. Man, nope. They took every single one of the guys I wanted right before it got to me, and I'm left. I think I got stuck with Marvin Harrison Jr., man. That was a disaster, but yeah. Best balls, I don't do that many best balls, but you mentioned playoff best ball. That's the one thing I have participated in the last couple of years pretty hardcore. I like it a lot, and I've had some success with that. So maybe we'll do a show about NFL playoff underdog best ball stuff, man, because
there you go.
There is a for sure strategy to it, and that's fun stuff. And speaking of playoffs, like look at this game tonight. It has no playoff meaning. We're here. Who would have thunk, man? If you would have told me at the beginning of the season we're going to go week 17 Monday Night Football, Detroit, San Francisco, NFC. I bet the NFC is up for grabs with this game right here. I bet this is for the number 1 seed. Something out there has got to be cooking with this game. This game is meaningless to both these teams. It's bizarre, man. But so that's the first question I want to ask you is. This game doesn't mean anything. Frisco's eliminated a long time ago. In fact, some people would say it would behoove them to lose games. Get as high as a draft pick as you can because you're not winnings doesn't mean nothing to you tonight or next week. And for Detroit, boy, we've heard Dan Campbell all week. We're going to go for it. We're not resting up. We're not doing it. This time last year, he basically handicapped his team by getting Sam Laporta hurt. Yep. Will he do the same thing again? He shouldn't, because this game means nothing. Next week, everything goes into next week. That's the game that decides everything. This one means nothing. How are you treating that aspect of it? Do you expect everything to be 100% go here, or do you expect some shenanigans from one of these teams?
So tonight's kind of unique in that I'm going to build for both scenarios. Normally you try to stick to, we talk about this all the time. People try to cover every base. You cannot do it. It's impossible, even with 150 lineups. So you tend to stick with, get a captain or two you like, then you get different combinations around that. Tonight, a little bit unique in that, yes, he comes out and says these things, and I want to believe him because it's Dan Gamble, as they call him here locally. And, You know, they're going to go balls to the wall. But you mentioned the Laporta thing. There isn't anything at stake. There's a minor thing. If they didn't win tonight and then they end up tied with Minnesota, they lose out. I mean, that's the smallest possibility of anything. So pretty much meaningless. So I want to build as if, yes, we're going to see a competitive game here. The spread at 3.5, some places it's up to 4 now. Seems a little low. You know, if you had to handicap this going in, I would start at 6, probably a touchdown. So that's telling me, you know, maybe they're not going to sit their guys and not start them, but maybe they play a quarter, maybe they play a half, maybe they get out ahead and they, you know, bring in all the backups. Maybe some of these guys play limited snaps. The Laportas who have been injured all season long. You cannot afford to lose Jahmyr Gibbs and roll into the playoffs with Craig Reynolds. So maybe they're limited. So I want to build a full game. Yes, it's competitive. I also want to build these guys maybe play a little bit and then they hit the pine. So 2 kind of different builds I want to attack here tonight.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the way you got you roll that out there if you're running more than one lineup. I'm running one lineup. I've got a specific build I'm going with, and we'll talk about that later. And I mean, you do or die with it, man. You can't budge off of it. That's what you got to do. But again, guys, we're in here to love to answer your questions here, man, for the next 20 minutes or so. Whatever you got fired off, we'll answer it. So see some guys in chat already. Richie Smalls, I appreciate that, man. I don't know that I have the best.
Oh, yeah. Chop's got them smooth tones, man. Just
I don't know about that one.
Cool as a cucumber. It always has, man.
I do appreciate all that, but Chris says I don't see Dan Campbell slowing down at all. That might be his demise, man. Like,
could be. It's kind of like you live by the gun, you die by the gun, you know, and the 4th downs, and that this is how he goes. So I could certainly see that. I don't want anybody to take this as build as if these guys are going to sit. Like I said, if you have 1 or 2 lineups, you either decide, okay, they're going to go for it. It's going to be a full game, or let's build. If not, if you have 10, maybe you do 6 and 4. So you don't have to do it that way. It's just the way that I'm doing it tonight. Maybe dead wrong, but you either win or you lose. You know, I'm gonna go for it. I'm not here to cash these things. So I'm gonna try to build for both builds. If it doesn't work out, doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean they're already so demolished on defense with injuries. If they lose a big offensive guy, they're cooked, man. So that's injuries are the one thing that's going to take them out of the Super Bowl. They got the team in the NFC to do it, except for the injuries, which are starting to pile up now in a big way. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's see here. I'm getting a lot of Pearsall in lineups. We'll talk about Pearsall in a minute. Mardon's in chat. Jug up, Juggalo Nation. Good to see Juggalo Nation showing up. I don't know where Kirkwood is, but he usually doesn't pop up on Monday nights. But he's the leader of Juggalo Nation. But what's the most players you lock in when using SimLabs on FanDuel? Talk me through your SimLabs on a FanDuel. Are you locking anybody in, or what do you feel good about tonight?
If it's a general question, it varies. You know, there's some nights I really want this captain and I want to see what the builds look like around this captain. Or you may have, I want this captain and this guy. And I think that's a great way to use SimLabs. I think people think SimLabs, as good of a tool as it is, it's not just show up, click the button, okay, here's all the winning lineups. It doesn't work that way. You have to input a little bit. You have to put a little bit of your own personal, and you can move things around in different sliders, but it's not an end-all, be-all. So every game is different here tonight. As far as FanDuel goes, if I'm 1 or 2 lineups, I'm locking Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, if he's going to get the workload, the matchup is ideal. San Francisco has been great against wide receivers, awful against the run. The workload that he's going to get both on the ground and through the air, the touchdown equity without a David Montgomery, and Jared Goff isn't a big threat around the goal line. So Gibbs would be the guy that I would lock if I'm going all in on this game.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, like you theoretically, you can absolutely just pop up in SimLabs, press a button, and let it build lineups for you.
Sure.
Like, and then just it builds good lineups, period. Like there's a difference between, I always tell people this, man, when they complain about, oh man, I couldn't even I couldn't even cash. I could barely cash this with a good score in this tournament. Man, you got if you're playing against 10,000 other lineups, 100,000 other lineups, you don't understand how lucky, straight up lucky, you have to get to win something like that. It just takes luck. So of course, you build any lineups from anywhere and just plug them into a big ass contest like that. You're probably not doing great. You're lucky to min cash, that kind of thing. But it can build competitive lineups. You build some lineups there, and then you turn them over to some contests that are actually obtainable.
Right.
Like 100-person field or something like that. You can be cooking, man. It's going to build you good lineups. But then, like you said, there are other ways to use it. Some people have, I've watched them use it before on the videos, and they're out there and they're just running SimLabs over and over and over by the bunches. They're seeing what names are being spit out the most. So that those are the names that are simming well, as they say. The kids call it simming well, right? Like, see who's popping up. That means that there must be something to that player in the Sims that they like, the Sims like. So maybe that's a player I need to be targeting in my builds. You could take all that information after doing that 1,000 times and then go hand build a lineup. That could be what SimLabs is for, hand building. But after you see what the Sims actually like, do whatever you want with it, man. It's good stuff. All right.
Yeah, there's a million ways. And a great question by Chris. I didn't want him to think I was attacking him here. We know the human element is involved, but just testing out different things. Plug this in. What does this look like? Or what is this thing giving the masses who are using this? And maybe you agree with, okay, there's a guy that's 70% owned. I need him in my lineups. You might say, I don't believe in that guy. Everybody else is going to have him. Let me pivot. Let me get off him. Let me get a little bit different. So a million different ways to use that tool. It's just an incredible tool. If you haven't used it yet, what are you waiting on? But I'm sure we're going to get into some of that here on the game tonight.
Yeah. So a couple questions here. Timeless Talks. I guess he's in a season long. Or maybe he's in DFS and he's just late swapping. I'm up 14 and have one spot. Debo, Jameson, or Jennings tonight. Who he's up 14, so he can play it conservative. Who would you pick?
I never thought in the year 2024 I'd be saying this, but it's Juwan Jennings over Debo Samuel tonight. I mean, he's just been so consistent. He's stepped into basically that Brandon Ayuk role. Hasn't been a lot of fluctuation, we'll say, to his targets, to his production, where Debo's kind of been, up and down. I love the upside of Debo. I think Jennings a little bit safer, and you get a similar target share in that offense. So I'm gonna go with Jennings there again. Something I never thought we'd be saying this year, but here we are.
I agree 100%. If you were down 14, it'd be a different answer. But you're up 14, you'd be conservative, and he is the most conservative guy on that board right there. Safest floor. We Major, one of our FanDuel guys. Always like a little FanDuel action. Who's your favorite MVPs? We kind of talked about it a little bit. For FanDuel MVP, large field, who you leaning on?
Gibbs the easy answer, so we'll give you some answers outside of that. And as much as I just bashed on Debo, I do like Debo and the upside that he can give you. If you're playing a little bit safer, Jennings still has upside, but like you said, a little bit safer, steadier floor. We know the upside is there with Debo. As frustrating as this season has been for him. Saw some flashes last week, finally. So it's a guy you can utilize in many different ways. They'll utilize him out of the backfield. So if I'm shooting for upside, outside of a Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, those guys to me are pretty obvious tonight. I think Debo Samuel, the guy that I'd be shooting for tonight.
Got a question from Eric. Who's your favorite Lions backup tonight? If you had to do a backup, Brock Wright or Tim Patrick are names he's throwing out there.
Craig Reynolds.
I agree with. I was going to say the same thing.
I mean, they have put him in. This is a two-back system. Yes, Gibbs now is going to see the majority of carries, but they get down close. Maybe Craig Reynolds gets a touchdown. They sit Gibbs a little early. Yeah. Maybe it's Craig Reynolds. So rather than the tight ends that they rarely use, and sometimes they do use those guys when they get around the goal line. So you might catch a cheap Brock Wright, Zylstra touchdown, but I think Craig Reynolds will get some work in this offense. I don't think a touchdown is asking too much here for him. And if they do sit Gibbs, he's cheap enough where you can load up on pretty much everybody else. So Craig Reynolds for me.
Man, I couldn't agree more. Not just, you just cannot wear down Jahmyr Gibbs right now.
Right.
He's got to be fresh for next week. And then you take care of your business next week, and you can have a week off and rest him again. But you might need to play that wild card round too. Man, there's no reason to run him into the ground. I think in addition to everything you said, he just may get that extra 10 snaps tonight just to take a little bit of weight off, and that's just where it is. Tim Patrick playing tonight? Yeah, I don't see why Tim Patrick's not playing tonight. Would you take Debo over Jameson as a captain?
Now, both are intriguing because they both present that big level of upside. If you remember back to that NFC Championship games, it was Jameson Williams going ham in the first half of that game. So slightly Debo for me, but I do like the upside of Jameson Williams as well.
Let's see. Yeah, that was from Israel. We got a question from, or a comment or a question from Real School Psychologist. Do we all agree the Lions going to come out guns blazing tonight? I want to say this. We've all heard Dan Campbell this week, and we know his personality, so obviously wouldn't put it past him at all to be 100% all in on this game tonight. Is, as crazy as I think it is, and other people think it is, that could happen. Also, though, I was watching there was a college football game this week. Did a little showdown on it, and I knew they didn't say what was going to happen. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna. These guys are gonna play. We're gonna play. We're gonna play." Even though it doesn't mean anything, we're gonna play. But I knew, man, there's something fishy here. This is not. And of course, it was the Miami Hurricanes with nothing to play for and some first-round draft picks on their team. Of course, those guys came out guns blazing in the first half, and then they came out at halftime, and those guys sat down, took a seat on the bench, and that was it. I wouldn't put it past the Lions to say this is going to be a nice little one half, keep us in rhythm, but after halftime, let's call it a night. So I don't know.
That's where I'm at too. If I had three scenarios I have to bet on: one, they play the whole game; two, they don't play at all; three, they play about a half and then they sit. I'm betting on that third scenario. Right or wrong, that if you're presented with the options, that's what I'd be going with. So is a half enough for these guys to put up numbers? Absolutely. This is one of the best, if not the best offense in the entire NFL. So could only take a half. But what if it's 17-0, it's 21-3 in the second quarter? As much as he's going to say we're going to play these guys, like you just said, okay, we played them. I didn't make it up. I didn't lie. We went for it. We got it. The other thing I keep hearing locally, and this is more a radio talk thing, we need vengeance. We got to go back out there and show San Francisco. What vengeance are you getting on a team that has 5 wins? You're not knocking them out of the playoffs. This isn't vengeance from last year. They beat you. Okay. It's not like you're painfully sending them home if you beat them. There's really no vengeance to get in this game. So again, if I had to bet, my scenario is they play about a half, 2.5 quarters, and they sit. It just makes too much sense. If he plays them all, I'm both shocked and not surprised at the same time, if that makes sense.
No, 100% sense. Plums are coming
real
up.
Quick here, Eric. A couple people are asking the Lions have the 1 seed already. They do not. They're actually sitting in the 5 as of right now.
Yeah.
With Minnesota ahead of them, and that Week 18 game is for all the marbles, which Chop is crazy. There's going to be a 14-win team potentially as a 5 seed in the playoffs. I mean, absolutely nuts. So no, they don't have that 1 seed locked up, but this game neither helps or hinders that. It's all in play for next week outside of a tie. If they were to lose tonight, they tie, then they don't get it. But again, very minute possibility.
They play the Vikings next week, and because of the same records right now, even if they lost tonight, if they won next week, they'd have all the tiebreakers on the Vikings, so they'd get the number 1 seed. No matter what they do tonight, if they lose next week, they drop down to the number 5 seed. So nothing, like Beer said, just one obscure fraction of 1% outcome, which doesn't mean anything. Everything hinges on next week, nothing on tonight. So, that's what makes it so interesting. Plum's coming up in just a few minutes, guys. Jaden Daniels is the truth. Jaden Daniels, very good. Very impressed with Jaden.
Yes, very good.
Beer, man, listen. Washington's been a laughingstock of the league for several years. Then all of a sudden they got a quarterback and a retread coach who I didn't think was going to do that great, and a retread offensive coordinator who's actually doing
the key one.
It was crazy, but this all come together. But a lot of it is because they got a real legit quarterback who can run and can pass, and he's really good, man. So
he is phenomenal, and the accuracy, the poise is the biggest thing. I mean, nothing seems to rattle this kid, and he's just making plays and the escapability and just all of it. He's not just a runner; not just a passer. I mean, this kid's got the total package, and to do that in his rookie season, the future is bright for him for sure.
Yeah. The best way to pick a game scenario is build a court. Yep. Yep. I agree with all that. Let me see what else we got here before we get to SimLabs. Lions don't need to win. We talked about all that. All right, let's pull up some SimLabs real quick and walk through some captains and MVPs and all this other good stuff that we're gonna play around with. All right, let's see what we're looking at here. The optimal versus project, just a little guideline to get you cranked up on your research if you want it. It's basically telling us that Kittle and Amon-Ra, Jared Goff these are good captains based on projection compared to their ownership, whereas Jameer, heavily owned, Craig Reynolds, Jawan, these are not great but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, let's real quick, Chop, click on the other tab where it shows a list, because I do like this when people kind of see that and they get confused. And, I like to click on that optimal button. That's going to show you in the Sims who is the most optimal captain, then compared to the ownership, or the graph's going to show you the biggest mismatches, and you could see that in the third column. But sometimes it's nice to get a numerical view of things like this, because you may see a guy in the graph, but he's 2% optimal as a captain, if that makes sense. So to see the numbers, I always like looking there, and it's giving us the same name, same picture, but sometimes things will switch up a little bit. But really seeing who is optimal. There's been some, I know you've probably seen this guy be like 40, 45, that Josh Jacobs night against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was 60% optimal or something. So at that point, okay, locking in Jacobs, and let's see how many different renditions that we can get with that.
Yeah. And the interesting part about tonight, though, with all this as it pertains to Detroit, is these are based on projections. Now, the projections are just numbers. They have no heart. They have no soul. They're just a machine. They're not taking into account narrative. So what we're talking about is, what if Detroit does let off? This is assuming Detroit's full gas pedal right here. What if they do let off? So tonight's still is the one interesting one like that, to where Detroit could throw all this into a monkey wrench. But let's see here. Any advanced settings you like tonight with this game, or should we just go with the standard setup here?
I actually liked sliding projection down a little bit. I'm glad you brought that up. As I was doing lineups earlier, that was the same thought. So this is based on a full game. And again, we may get the full game. So I'm just sliding it down a little bit. I'm always moving upside and correlation up a little bit in these scenarios. So like 15, 20, that's fine. So don't need a ton of movement tonight, but just moving that projection down a little bit.
All right, then we're assuming large field. Let's play large field. If you want these lineups to spit out a lot of good lineups, but varied lineups, different players, different, it's possible. You go with this results range being.
I'm usually in the low to medium range.
Like
I don't want to see every possible combination.
Yeah.
Some people do. They want to see as many different.
Most of the times I do put it right in the middle at 50% and see how it goes. But in the super large fields, I will start playing around and run a whole bunch of that. Let's see what happens when we pop out 100 of these puppies, because they take no time at all. But I got a feeling I know what we're going to see at captain. But the lineup maker, it does divvy it up. It spreads it around pretty good. So let's see what our exposures look like. Debo and Jameer. So it's got Debo pretty high up there in the Sims tonight. He is a highly variance-driven player, man. He has mostly duds this year, but he bounced back last week. What do you think about Debo tonight? How do you like him in captain?
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm a big fan of Debo tonight, and kind of been riding this ship all season long. Mostly, ship has been sinking, put money into Debo. So I don't want it to just be okay. Last week he looked good, but they did finally get him more involved. 9 targets last week. Again, a meaningless game, but I still think this team's going to come out and try to perform here. So anytime you get a guy like that in these Sims, in your exposures, where it's kind of surprising, I think if we had to guess beforehand, he wouldn't have been in our top 3 or 4 exposures. That gets me excited that the Sims like him, and a lot of other people aren't going to like him. So I'm a big fan of Debo. Have already built a few Debo captains just the usage like we talked about earlier, the carries, the screens, the unique ways that they get him the ball, the touchdown upside. So I like this one a lot tonight.
So our very first lineup it popped out is Jawan Jennings in captain, and I saw a question about Jawan Jennings in captain a minute ago. So let's just go ahead and address it. What do you think about Jawan in captain tonight?
Don't mind it. I think he'll be higher owned than Debo, which is why I prefer Debo a little bit. But the theory is the same. How do you beat this Detroit Lions defense? And they're much more beatable now with all the injuries. So it's not to say that you can't run on them like earlier in the season, but they give it up to wide receivers. That the second most receiving yards allow a ton of fantasy points. So it's the same argument for me. Jennings shouldn't be too much higher owned. I actually have a couple with him in captain as well. I prefer Debo, but Jennings is strong as well in this matchup.
So I see a couple of questions in chat about the same topic, which is basically if we assume maybe they let off the gas pedal a little bit, or if Jahmyr Gibbs just flat out gets hurt or something happens to him and you want the next in line. I think, are we both in line, assuming it's Craig Reynolds here?
Yeah, Craig Reynolds next in line. Vakai was, saw him out there a little bit last week. He would get some run. So Reynolds to me is the guy. And you could even pair the two up. If you really like Gibbs tonight and you have a small inkling that maybe they rest him, look again, back to that Green Bay game. I think all three of their running backs ended up being in the optimal lineup. So there could be enough touches where maybe they don't want to expose Jared Goff to a ton of dropbacks that Gibbs can still get there. Reynolds kind of mops up in the second half or the fourth quarter, finds himself in the optimal with Gibbs. So Reynolds definitely the next man up and one of my favorite cheap plays on the slate tonight.
That's exactly what the Sims is saying here with a lot of these lineups that built is it's just putting Gibbs in there with Reynolds, which, man, I'll tell you, I've had that work for me before in Showdown. Oh, yeah. So it can definitely, especially a team like this that can be run heavy, that could be the way Dan Campbell takes his foot off the gas is we're not going to put Amon-Ra or Jared Goff at risk. We're going to go out there and run the ball a lot. Pound the rock, and Jahmyr is going to get his 100 and a touchdown, maybe 30, 40 receiving, and Reynolds is going to.
So they're saying in chat they don't see Amon-Ra. Looks like he's like 38%.
Oh, no, I just singled out Craig Reynolds' lineups here, but
there you go.
Amon-Ra is 32 in flex, and it spit out 7 in captain. So a lot of Amon-Ra in captain builds are San Fran heavy in the flex. Most of them are. That's interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think that goes in. All right, so here's the thing, Beer. Usually we turn right now to Splash Sports and get us a little player prop work. And first, though, tonight, I want to go a little bit different tonight. A little bit out of order. I want us to do our Plum's play of the night first. That way we can just fully dive in without, holding back on the props. So I want to turn the floor over to you. You've hinted at it. Give me your fill it in the Plums play of the night tonight.
You already know, baby. I'm going Debo. Again, hopefully last week wasn't an aberration, and we get back to the guy that we know can be electric, can be a slate breaker. So Debo is my Plums play, and even when we get to these Splash Sports, I see his number at 47.5, which is the same number I wrote about earlier today on Scores and Odds and placed that bet myself. So Debo Samuel, my Plums play of the night.
Yeah, so I got a player I'd play in for my Plums play tonight, but I want to do it a little bit different here.
All right.
I want to just give you an idea for a Plums, because it's hard for me to single out a single guy in this game, but my thought here and my build in my personal lineup is my Plums play of the night is a 5-1 San Francisco build. Or 4-1 if you're on, what I mean? Yep. 4-1 if you're on FanDuel, 5-1 over here on DraftKings. But it is a San Fran heavy. It's a Jahmyr Gibbs fade for me tonight because of all the things we talked about. I'm taking a chance. Could bite me, but that is what it is. So I'm going with heavy dose of San Francisco here. And one of the guys I'll have in there that I feel really, it's hard to is it Jennings? Is it Debo? Kittle's been great with Ayuk out. Who do I go? I'm going Isaac Guerrero in there. He is an explosive 4.3 40 running back. He's got all the traits that fit the Shanahan system, and he should get back to being a bell cow tonight. But I like the 5-1 Frisco build tonight, and just hope we cross our fingers that Dan Campbell's smart enough to take his foot off that gas pedal a little bit. So with all that being said, let's get a player
Now
prop
let
for
me
the people.
ask if, because I built some of these 5-1s myself, and I've gone as far as Craig Reynolds is the one, and I have another one where Jake Bates is the one, like where maybe these guys only play a quarter. So, and some people are like, that's crazy. They're going to play half. They're going to this. They're going to do that. Like, you have to take stances, and sometimes they win, and sometimes, most of the time, the stance is going to be wrong. But that's the game. But I'm with you. Those are the kind of stands I want to make. If Gibbs goes nuts, I got a couple of those builds, like I mentioned, a couple full game normal builds, but most of my builds tonight are these kind of extreme, and extreme is what it takes to win these things. So Ricky Bobby, I'm either going to win, or I don't care if I'm in 7,000th or 107,000th. It doesn't really matter. So love that 5-1 call out. I have a few of those again, one with Reynolds, one with Bates. You could play it a little bit safer, and maybe it's a Laporta night or Amonra does it, but I like that call a lot, and I don't think you're going to see many of those builds out there tonight.
Let's talk about some Splash Sports, guys. By the way, on Splash Sports, I don't know if you checked it out yet. There's a lot of player prop sites out there. Splash Sports is the newest one with these quick picks up here. You see the quick picks tab. Get in there. It's good stuff. There's a promo code right now. You can use Roto10. Gets you some free money. Use Roto10, ROTO10. Roto10 gets you some free money. Get in there and get some quick picks in. In addition, one of these days, I'll walk you through the contest lobby and the survivors. It's awesome stuff, man. I've been in the NFL survivors this year. I'm in some college playoff survivors right now. I need to set my teams. It's just some good stuff. Let's talk about some props, though, for tonight, Beer. What you got that jumps out to you right offhand?
That Debo 47.5. We'll start with that. I mean, again, he's had quite a few games under this number, but that number to me is still baking in the struggles that he has had. It still seems too low. If I had to set this number, probably be in the mid 50s. So to get it under 50, and he's a guy that can do it in one catch. One of the best yak guys we have in the league. So Debo over, it already went up on it. It was 47.5 earlier.
It's been going up. Yeah, it's been going up. So
still under 50. I think it's great value.
I think people are expecting him to not to be struggling all year long like he did, to be in that bounce back mode. Let me see what I got for you. Like that one? Who do I got, man? Give me some ideas of another one while I kind of gather my thoughts here.
So I like Purdy, multiple touchdown passes.
Boom, I like that one a lot too.
With that, so it kind of correlates well with our Debo play. Jake Bates is a guy that, last year they didn't want to kick any field goals, and now they're letting this guy rip a bunch of field goals. So I don't mind if we've got a kicking over on him as far as kicking point. I don't know if they have that or not, but that's something in the prop markets I like tonight as well.
Yeah, I like the Purdy call. I'm actually putting that one in. We got one more. You know what? Let's go. I like these weird ones. Let's go. How about Jared Goff less than 1.5 rushing yards? Just simply for the fact that, number one, we don't even know if he's going to play the full game. Number two, he doesn't even run that much anyway. I mean, he'd actually have to scramble, and they're probably got a pretty good. They probably had a pretty good speech with him already. Hey, man, don't scramble tonight. Don't run tonight. We can't lose you. So let's, maybe he's extra conservative.
Oh yeah,
I like that one. So let's
the old Peyton Manning. Somebody's coming at you, just dive down.
Like don't run, Jared.
One more thing on these props, and I'm going to continue to build upon this. I think they play about a half. Is I hammered the unders, Chop, and kind of put together some parlays on the Detroit stuff. So again, could burn me. They could come out and light the world on fire, but they don't play a half. It can be tough to cover some of these props. So another angle that you can take if you are a believer, they're not going to play the whole game. Just something else to add to the toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see here. I'm going to go back and scan chat real quick. Get you a couple questions before we get out of here. DK large field single entry. Jennings, Samuel, or Garendo for captain?
I'm going to say Samuel. I know you like Garendo, and we talked about Jennings. So I think all three are great, as I think a lot of people are going to have Gibbs, Amonra. I think there's going to be more Detroit captains. So I think Debo will be the lowest owned of that group. I think they all have a similar level of upside. I'll go Debo there.
Eric says Kittle has family in the stands. Does that matter? Narratives always matter, man.
I love narratives. Keep in mind Detroit, and again, the injuries kind of, muddy this up a little bit, but they've been very good against tight ends. They kind of force production to the wide receivers, but Kittle's that damn good. So really hard to ever bet against him. He's in a few of my lineups for sure, and always a good bet to score a touchdown.
Yep. Laporta for captain.
I'm not tonight. His role has just not looked the same, and even when Jamison Williams was out, yeah, he got a bump, but he's dealing. If there's one guy that they'd be like, all right, this guy's kind of still working his way back. He's not the most important piece they have, but I could see them being like, all right, Brock Wright, Zylstra, you're in a little bit more. So not going to say no, just not one that I'm going with tonight.
And man, there's got to be some sort of like in the back of your mind, this is how you got Laporta hurt last year in a meaningless game. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they've totally forgotten about it, but it's got to be something back there. Gibbs and Garendo score tonight. Watch. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. I mean, the odds would probably favor that if they get their action there. The Lions running through Gibbs, Laporta, Williams, St. Brown. Just don't do the Chase. Oh, yeah, Chase Brown going down. Oh, man, don't even get me started on it. Since first of all, I like the going down. I hate it when guys go down and slide that way with the foot first. And, can't you just fall some other way besides that? Too many guys get – and then for that to happen means that they were smart enough to know go down, burn the clock, right. All that other – then why would you sneak it in the next play on second down and goal? That don't make any sense, man.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Like you're right down. I get it. The kicker just missed something. You're nervous about it, or no, that was before that. But anyways, yeah, you had it all set up, and
that one makes that part made a little sense because since Chase Brown got injured, it forced the Bengals to have to use their timeout, and so they couldn't run the clock out anymore because Denver still had their timeout.
Here's the thing I would rebut that with, and what I was thinking. Okay, you got second down. You can lean forward, just don't go in the end zone on second down. Make them burn their last timeout.
And then,
Then on third down, if you want to really score a touchdown, you got that quarterback sneak all day long. It's going to be there on third down anyway. So I don't know. But, hopefully Chase is back this week. Pearsall over 20.5 receiving yards. What do you think about Pearsall tonight?
He's always so hit and miss. I mean, it's an attractive number, but there's games that he's just out there running sprints basically. So a little risky, even that low, but he has shown he can blow this number out of the water as well. So I'm not touching it, but I certainly see why somebody would at that low number.
All right, guys, we've got about 20 minutes till kickoff. We're going to let you get out of here. I'm not seeing any more questions in here. So this is Week 17, Week 18 usually does not have a Monday Night Football game.
Nope.
But usually that wild card weekend, they come back with a Monday Nighter. They like to split it up into Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So they put 3 on Sunday and 1 on Monday night. So maybe we'll have another show. But this is going to do it for the regular season. So it's been a good ride. I'm sure we'll have more for the playoffs anyway. So for real, just get in here. We'll drop plenty of notification. You'll get in there. These are always fun. Have a good time doing it. Learn a lot too. Get to tweak the roster on the fly by listening to very smart people like Beer. It's been a blast having you here, man.
Absolutely, brother.
You got any parting words for the peoples?
No, appreciate all the comment. Always fun when you guys are, just like you're hanging out. We're talking football with the guys and gals. So appreciate all the comments, all the great questions. Chop, always fun doing shows with you, my man. We've been doing this forever. So appreciate everything. TJ, behind the scenes, appreciate it. And an early Happy New Year's to everybody.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night's a big night. So another great year at RotoGrinders. Looking forward to 2025.
Looking forward to it. He took the words out of my mouth. Thank you to TJ behind the scenes. Everybody tuning in. We love the chat-driven show. I'll always say that, and that's why I like it so much. So, guys, good luck in those GPPs. But for Beer, for TJ, and for myself, Chop, we're out of here.